everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and I am really excited for today's guest. The way I find my guests, sometimes I do a little bit of internet stalking, and then I kind of reach out to people that I think that I would really love to have on the show because I think that they are going to add so much value and teach us and entertain us at the same time. And our guest today is one of those people, but I didn't even think I'd hear back from her. So imagine my surprise when not only did I hear back, she agreed to be on the show. So without further ado, let me introduce today's guest, Selene Kepila. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, I just thought, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. So
Yeah, yeah,
here we
so, uh,
are.
awesome. Thank you.
So
Exciting.
anyway, yeah, and like you want to be here, which is even cooler. So I would just love to start out with you telling us a bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
Okay, hi. Yes, well, I was grown up on a farm in Kansas, and so health and wellness was part of growing up on a farm. But as you know, as more and more things come into play, like microwave ovens and the unhealthy conveniences that we get introduced to later in life, I started to get a experience through my aunt who was she was helping my cousin who was dying of a thyroid disease, and she got frustrated with the medical arena and took matters into her own hands, and she was able to help him through learning about essential oils and herbs, and that was my first introduction really to natural healing and our own brain and body's ability to heal. And then my grandmother was also later in life dying of leukemia,
Mm.
and she was around 74, and she ended up living till 95. So these were two huge pivotal moments in my life where I was like, wow, natural healing is very, very powerful. And it just set me on that track as to just a passion for natural wellness and what we can do to take matters into our own hands and re-empower ourselves and others, the people we love.
I love that. I love that so much because, especially in Western culture, it's kind of, it's take a pill and trust the doctor or the person in the white coat to tell us exactly what to do. And they don't have that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting down a doctor in any way, shape, or form, but they only know what they know. And that doesn't necessarily include nutrition and alternative modalities. Although I don't really like the word alternative.
Be our first choice, actually. Why do we run to, I know what we know most is our doctor, to have two choices basically. One, medication, which has side effects and is
Mhm.
essentially toxic to our bodies, or the others have surgery. And, I'm like you, like, I mean, if I have a car accident, my guts are spilled out on the road, yes, I do want a doctor to stitch me up, put my guts back in. But all in all, most what we can do, the medicine is out available in nature for us. And if we would give it a chance, like our ancestors taught us to do, we would find that a lot of things are unnecessary to take medicines or even have surgeries for. So you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't blame doctors. They
Mhm.
are literally trained for prescribing medication. That's it.
Exactly.
They're not
Mhm.
there to talk to you about nutrition or alternative medicine. In fact, when I remember when I was younger and I would tell my doctor, oh, yes, I do herbs and essential oils or yoga and meditate. Back when I was 18 years old, they were looking at me like, what are you even talking about? Now you can talk to your doctor about those things, and they'll definitely, hopefully, encourage you to continue to do those things. But now we've even advanced further along, and there's so much more that if doctors only knew was available to their patients, uh,
Mhm.
refer to do as an alternate way versus medicating. And sometimes, too, what happens is there's the unfortunate incentivization through pharmaceutical companies to incentivize doctors to, okay,
Mhm.
all the patients you can on this medication, and I will give you $500 a month or $500 per person as an incentive to get them on these medications or drugs, which then starts to bend the ethical practices a little bit. And I'm not saying, like you said, not all doctors do this, but it has to be known that sometimes the motive is different.
Exactly. And I actually used to work in pharmacy, so I understand a lot about drug reps, and it usually comes down to who's the most persistent. So that's who gets their drugs prescribed.
Yes, it's true. I mean, I've literally been chased. I don't typically go to the doctor, but once in a while, once in a blue moon,
Mhm,
you need to just go for a blood test or whatever it is, and being asked multiple times in one doctor's visit, do you want to do your flu shot or whatever it
mhm.
is? It's like, okay, come on, enough already. It's down your throat a little bit, but
Exactly. So I would love for you to share a little bit, because this is how I found you, because of your company and what you've created. And you yourself have created some amazing modalities. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got started like most of us do, with the basic things that we hear of massage therapy, acupuncture, acupressure, those kinds of things, Reiki. So, some of those ones.
Mhm.
And then along came when I moved to California from New York City. I had a dear friend who, currently is my friend, but she didn't know me very well at the time. And she knew of me as a good natural healer, and she came to me and she approached to me and she said, listen, my family comes from a very beautiful, creative background, but we also have a family history of suicide and abuse and
Mhm.
addiction. And her name is Mariel Hemingway. She's the granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway. So she came and approached me and she said, listen, there's something called brain optimization. It's basically neurofeedback where it's a very, it's a new modality, a new way of naturally helping heal the brain from mental illness. And so, the licensing and the certifications were extremely expensive. It was very new of its kind, but using her influence, et cetera, she was able to help get me started on that path.
Mm.
So I began diving into the brain and being able to work with people with mental illness. And she was my first client, actually. After I got licensed and certified, I sought out to help her. And after helping her, she had referred me many of her family and her friends, and continues to do so to even to this day. So
I love
it's
that.
been an incredible journey and a path, and it just brought me into that alignment. And as I was a single practitioner at that time, I would fly across the country, or people would fly across the country to me, and then we would be able to, at that time I was not taking insurance, and I would say, if you don't even want to divulge what's going on, I will see it in your brain. So you don't have to tell me this, 3-hour story of your traumatic childhood, although I will happily listen if you want to tell me. And I could just literally put them in the system and see the brain and be able to realize, okay, this is out of balance. So I understand their sleep is going to be off, or this is off
Mhm.
balance. And I understand they're probably quick to anger, or they're suicidal, or they're depressed, or their lack of focus. So I could just see what was going on in the brain. And what was unique about this, it was it's a modality or technology that is all natural. It's not invasive at all. It does not
Mhm.
use medications. In fact, our clients would be able to get off medications from, antidepressants or whatever they were on. And it was very successful. 85% of the people who came to me were able to, within 1 or 2 weeks, be resolved of these lifelong challenges, whether
Wow.
it be sleep issues or chronic depression or anxiety or whatever it may be. And
Mhm.
I was super excited about this. I mean, when I was a little kid, I actually wanted to be a brain surgeon, and I knew there's no way. We're poor and a farmer daughter. And I, obviously there was no real desire for me to actually complete, 7 some years of schooling and tried to pay for such a thing. But here I am today, still to this day, working with the brain, working with people who have mental illness of all kinds, all
Mhm.
ages, all conditions. And then with working with the brain, along came a client where we ran into something a little bit more challenging. And
Mhm.
it happened to be a client who had a brain injury, a traumatic brain injury. And his head, he had actually fallen from a lift at a Home Depot.
Oh, wow.
And his head was like inflamed like a lampshade, actually. And so I had to quickly find a modality that would decrease inflammation in his brain. And so, therefore, that's how was introduced to infrared light therapy. And with the infrared light therapy, we were able to place the light pads on his brain, which would improve blood flow, reduce inflammation, and bring his head back down to a normal size so that we could actually do the brain work that we needed to do. And it was through these types of experiences with clients that we started to add more and more modalities into our business. And there's more modalities that we continue to add as I would run into other situations. One other specific one, for example, was this young boy who was 8 years old, came into our office, and the parents were about to put him on Ritalin. They didn't want to medicate him, but he was kicked out of school. I know, 8 years old.
Insane.
Stopped having friends. That something was really going on with him, and he met with him, and he was literally jumping out of his skin. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong, and so we did the brain analysis. And I looked in his brain and I'm like, no, there's no imbalances here for ADHD. His brain is intact, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And
Mhm.
I'm so grateful that I have a network of other healers around the world, scientists, doctors, researchers, etc. A beautiful network of people that I can count on when I run into a situation like this. And sure enough, I was introduced to a Russian scientist, and he introduced me to this amazing technology that's a bioresonance scanner that uses energy to scan the body and to
Oh,
detect
wow.
what's going on in the body and the brain. So I had a quick demo, and I was not able to send him my DNA in time. I was really rushing to figure out how I could help this beautiful child. And so within 5 minutes of this demo and using just my photo, which
Mhm.
served as an energetic blueprint to do the scan, he was able to show me things that were going on in my body that I knew absolutely were the case in that moment. And I was totally sold. I said, quick, send that modality to my office as soon as you can. And sure enough, we did a scan on this boy. And what happened was I was very shocked. He actually had his brain was full of parasites. And I
Wow.
was mortified, and I am a parent myself. I was like, "Oh my gosh, how can I possibly bring myself to tell this to another parent?" And so anyway, I mustered up the confidence to do that, and I did. And they went to the doctor, which I was totally fine for them doing. They
Mhm.
wanted a second opinion. Let's check out. Okay, this is what's going on with my child. And unfortunately, the doctor couldn't see anything because they only check when they, have parasites. They're only able to check blood, urine, and stool, whereas
Mhm.
our scanning technology can check the heart wall, the brain, all types of areas within the human body. And so we detoxed him using, frequencies which don't harm the body.
Mhm.
And within weeks, he was right back to his beautiful outgoing self. He was readmitted back into school. His friends started to integrate with him, and it was a happy, happy story. So it was things like that that are amazing. Like every day is a miracle.
I love that story because, you know, and once again, I hesitate to say this a little bit because I don't want to put down doctors, but and I'm not. But it's like I can't even tell you how many times I've gone and they can't figure out what's wrong with me. So I'm told nothing's wrong. But yet I live in this body. I know something's not right.
Mhm. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I really appreciate that you have this ability to truly help people without introducing toxins and poisons and things like that in the form of pills. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, I am very excited that we have the internet to help us ask questions, do our own research. I mean, as you said, we are the custodian of our own health, and we do
Mhm,
know best. We have to trust our gut. We have
mhm,
to really get people around us who advocate for our health. And sometimes that may not be our healthcare provider. If you
mhm,
don't want to take medications, then you need to find a healthcare provider that can help you get off of those medications so that you can go maybe a more natural route. And that's what I tell people. I in particular grew up with doctors.
mhm,
You know, before then, and we go back into our ancestries, way back, we had lots of home remedies,
mhm.
homeopathic remedies, and oh, take this teaspoon of whiskey, so you stop coughing or whatever it is. Uh, we have resources now that weren't always available to us, and we have to realize that just because we go to a doctor, and he prescribes, or he or she prescribes medications, doesn't mean we have to take it. We
Mhm,
can still choose not to take that, and we can choose to research and do our own due diligence to find out what's going to work for us. And I
mm,
always say to people, follow your gut, follow your heart, and do what's right for you, because there are many, many options out there. And that's my biggest mission, doing what we do. I really want people to know that there are alternatives, there are options outside of medications and surgeries, and we prevent those day in and day out all the time. And it's really difficult for, I know, people to open up their mind to other things, because when we
mhm,
don't understand them, we start to fear them. And there's a lot to be talked to about fear. Fear can kill you, and we have lots of examples of that, within the last 2 years. We have fear, which drove a lot of people to take, for example, the vaccinations.
mhm.
And now with our business, most of our clients are coming in because of adverse effects from the vaccination. So there's things that we have to do to, like I said, do our own research, trust
Mhm.
our gut, and look at all the options.
I love that. On that note, we are going to have to go to a commercial break, so we'll be back in just a moment. For those of you who are watching us live, thank you for joining us. As I mentioned, it's time for those commercials, so we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, I'm Julianne Meyer. You're watching Own Your Wellness, and today's special guest is Selene Kepila. Let's bring her back on. Welcome back. So during the commercials, I was thinking about, you started to talk a little bit about the vaccination, and I would love to hear more about that because, I actually have a few friends and, well, people who've passed away from COVID that shouldn't have, or, people that have had those really adverse reactions to the shots. And there's other ways to heal ourselves besides doing something like shooting that into our bodies. And I'm just curious if you could share what your experience is with some of the clients that have come in, what you see in their brain.
Yes. Oh gosh, this has been such a eye opener to me when we started to, well, it's after the vaccination started becoming available, we would have clients come in and we weren't asking people whether they were or weren't vaccinated, but I started to notice more and more, when people come in, we usually do a consultation and then we start with a scan so that we can see the whole body, the whole picture of mind, body, spirit, everything that's going on. So after one of our scans, one of our bioresonance scans, I would start to see some of the things come up again and again. Cancer was one of the first things I was starting to see come up on client scans.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started to see HIV. Then I started to see croatius, which is snake venom. And I was pretty much embarrassed when I would be sitting next to the client. I'm like, okay, did you get bit by a snake? I mean, I don't understand. Why would you have snake venom, in your scan? This is odd. And I just kept saying to my team, and why? I don't know why so many people are showing up with the same thing. I'm starting to question our technology. Is it broke? Is it stuck on something? I just was pulling my hair out and I was just baffled for the longest time. And then there was this family of 5 that came in. The parents were older and they had 3 older children and they all came up with the same thing: snake venom, HIV, cancer. And I was like, that's when I knew this family was everybody in this family was vaccinated and some had boosters.
Mm-hmm.
And I then started to do more and more research on what was going on. Like I said, I have a very large network of other people around the world, scientists, researchers, doctors, other healers with advanced technology similar to some we have. And they were saying the same thing. And there was a lot of information being revealed on sites that have free speech,
Mm-hmm.
Telegram, just different sites that weren't your standard sites where, free speech is allowed, where people were sharing these things. Even we were getting access to coroners who were sharing their experiences with people who died, and they were having to embalm them. And instead of draining their blood, there was no blood to be drained. And they were pulling out these massive, massive blood clots out of their bodies. So, and then the real straw that broke the camel's back for me was I happened to do a scan for my daughter who was across the country. So she lives in New York. And I was doing a scan for her. And it wasn't anything in particular. It was just something at random. And I came across the very same thing. And she's all natural, vegan. She even as
Mhm.
a child, she didn't like vaccinations or shots. And then that's when I just had to ask. I said, by any chance, did you happen to get the vaccination? Again, no judgment for anybody. It's everybody
Mhm.
has free will. It's our own personal choice. It's super sad when people are put to that in duress or for fear. But
Mhm.
I asked my daughter, and she did say, yes, mom, here in New York, it was impossible to go to the grocery store or the library or the subway or anywhere without showing proof of vaccination. And she felt that she had no choice but to do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish, you know, we have had a great relationship. And I'm like, gosh, I wish we would have had a chance to talk about it before you went and did that. And I didn't tell her what I found in her scan. I didn't want to set fear in her. I just particularly, okay, the solution. We have the solution. Little
Mhm.
do people know that things like cancer and AIDS and half these illnesses are reversible. Okay, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, these are reversible, and they were being reversed back in the 1900s
Mhm.
uh, with other types of scientists and healers and doctors who were researching. Dr. Royal Rife, look him up. He invented the technology that could kill cancer cells and was successful at it. And these types of people who came out with these cures, if you will, and were helping people way back then, it
Mhm.
became a threat to pharmaceuticals and the business that was money.
Yeah.
And we can't make, and unfortunately, you see, the United States it's a business.
Mhm.
Healthcare is a business. And if you can't make money on it, then, there's a problem with
Mhm.
pharmaceuticals, and then they fund our government, and it's a very big mess of tie-ins of what's going on. And it was, a hard pill to swallow that, wow, we are dealing with a lot of greed and unfortunate situations, because other countries, like let's say Denmark, for example,
Mhm.
doctors get incentivized. How many patients did you get off of smoking? How much weight did your patients, lose?
Lose.
Things like that, is how do you help them? And that's how they were incentivized with pay. Here, it's very, very different, and there's no money in people that are well, and the
Mhm.
money is in the people that aren't well. So unfortunately, it's a motivation to keep people sick and not, you know, help bring out these very, back in the day, known remedies to
Mhm.
get people better. And that's the unfortunate thing. So that's where I had privy to a technology that was able to tell me what is in these vaccinations. And being that information, I had to obviously share what I know with others, and also share with my clients, because you know letting them know what's going on. And again, from a compassionate viewpoint, that, listen, no judgment, what was done is done,
Mhm.
let's not repeat the mistake, and do whatever you can do to stay out of fear, boost your immune system. And now we have to detox from what was done. If you don't, what's happening is a lot of people are, and again, all these vaccinations are not created equal.
Yeah.
Okay. It would be too obvious of the plan of what's going on to depopulate the population of the earth if every vaccination was treated equally. That would just be too obvious, right? So these vaccinations are similar, but not everybody received the same type. In fact,
Mhm.
there's codings, certain government officials, et cetera, have a certain code that their vaccination is essentially a saline shot, right? And then others have different types of concoctions in it. Why HIV? It's a virus that is very strong, and you
Mhm.
can attach these other viruses to it, which then can hold the other components of the virus. snake venom, spider venom. These are all types. Some have venoms in these vaccinations, and sometimes, there's just other types of things. So it's not all created equally. And what we're able to see is what is affecting, what is happening to clients when they're taking this. And when we are doing their scans, myocarditis is showing up in a lot of people's scans. We're actually just
Mhm.
able to even scan the whole brain and body to see, are there blood clotting happening in the brain or in the heart? And we can then recommend clients to go ahead and see your doctor and get a test to determine whether, to what degree blood clotting is happening in the body. And it is scary to learn of this information, but we have to look at, knowledge is power, and
Mhm.
knowing is better than not knowing. And I know that even my daughter was telling me, she's like, Mom, don't tell me anymore. Don't tell me anything. Ignorance is bliss. And it is, yes, but when you know, and again, going back to, there is a solution for this, right?
Mhm.
It's not doomsday. Doomsday is what happens when we're walking around with cancer that we don't know we have. We're walking around with HIV that could essentially turn into AIDS, and we're walking around with myocarditis. Why are people literally dying suddenly? It's the number one Googled word. And there was a documentary called Died Suddenly. And, again, not trying to point people to fear, but knowledge and information, and to
Mhm.
let people know that there's a lot of information that's going on out there that it is being withheld from us, right? So we have
Mhm.
to be beyond our standard news channels and social media. We have to look beyond that. There, it's all out there. If you want to look for it and want to find it, it's absolutely all out there for anyone
Mhm.
to learn more about and be educated. I always tell people, you do your research, do your own research. And that's what's unfortunate. We were pushed,
Mhm.
really based off of fear, pushed into making these decisions for ourselves, our loved ones, unfortunately, our kids. And it's our it's, I feel, a moral right, even for myself, a moral obligation to share information with people. Before, it was like, okay, I need to share information with people that there's options for people beyond medications and surgery.
Yeah.
Now, above and beyond that, where I'm like, I need to tell people they need to be on the alert of their own health so they don't fall as to another statistic.
Now, I think that that's beautifully said. And, for those people, this is not obviously for you, but for the people that are watching that don't necessarily believe that information is being withheld, I mean, until you've seen it, it is. I mean, I know of a friend who they were sharing their son's story about the vaccination, and it was even the story was backed up with the creators of the vaccination, so they didn't make anything up, and it was withheld on social media saying that it was a lie. So no, it's things are geared to make us think a certain way, and it's always been like that. I mean,
Always been like that.
always. I mean, here's a funny one, like most people don't know, is that Santa Claus, okay? We all know who Santa Claus is. Santa Claus originally started out with a green suit. He wore a green suit. Well, Coca-Cola wanted to use him for their ads, and they're red, so they changed his suit to red. Now Santa Claus has a red suit. He didn't even start out that way, but we don't remember Santa Claus with the green suit. We and
Correct.
it was all because of Coca-Cola that now Santa Claus wears a red suit. So if
Correct.
Coca-Cola can do that,
Yeah.
imagine what else has been changed
Yeah.
to fit a narrative.
Yes. Correct. And we don't realize, too, taking a look at the bigger picture, that all of these food companies
Mhm.
and drug companies and social media and news sites are essentially all owned by one or two companies.
Mhm.
And that's all trickling down from the top of the agenda. And it's not being held a secret. They literally have been talking about this event and the
Mhm.
plan to depopulate the earth, etc. And it's out there for us to see and hear if we want to. We just have to wake up and do it. Because true,
Mhm.
on one hand, it's, you might question, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about it, right? But now it's affecting, it's entering our homes. It now, I personally know people who have brain tumors that weren't there before, and people who are dying and who've died, and people who have myocarditis, and people who've had symptoms of a small nature, but now they've been magnified. It's now being really effective in our own backyards. And so
Mhm.
we do need to pay attention. We do need to wake up, and we need to band together, and instead of being in fear and
Mhm.
being separated. And that's what's been happening. The pandemic separated us, right? Separated us and kept
Mhm.
us 6 feet apart, and masks, so we don't see our identities and relate to each other on a human level. And then, Black Lives Matter, another separation. Each
Mhm.
of these things are designed to keep separating us and keep separating us. And we have to kind of look at what's happening, and we need to stop being a part of the collective of that fear, and realize we need to come together out of compassion, out of love. And we
Mhm.
have to understand that we are all of one. We are all energy. We are all beautiful love and light. And we do need to stand together to make sure that these evil acts aren't carried through.
And I think that that you said that perfectly beautifully because, it's easier to control people when they turn on each other.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
easier to control
Yeah, yeah.
when
It's,
we're separated, and fear-based everything. Think about
yeah.
that. So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
you
even
gotta,
the way that we're educated in school isn't really sets us up for success. We're taught to follow rules, do things on our own, don't, all the I mean, it's not like if you want to be successful, you need a team of people. You can't do it all by yourself. Ask
another thing,
questions.
yeah, no, absolutely. Another thing I just want to mention too is common sense.
Mhm,
Take a moment and think about, all right, sickness. Let's just have common sense. Uh, Oxygen is important to keep us healthy, is it not? So
mhm,
how is a mask, where you're not getting oxygen, going to help you have a strong immune system? It's not
yeah,
going to happen. So that alone, the mask, is weakening us, or was weakening us when we were forced to wear it. Staying indoors. What is staying indoors? We can't get out to receive vitamin D. The sun
mm,
is one of the greatest sources of vitamin D, which helps our boost our immunity. You
mhm,
know, those are just two examples of common sense factors. Why, if we can have natural immunity, which is the best defense that we have against anything. I've
mhm,
literally never been sick a day in my life, outside of, a sniffle, a little cough here and there, but like sick, sick, never been sick a day in my life. Why is that? I understand energy. I understand immunity, and the basic common sense, getting sleep. Stress is the number one cause of disease and illness, right? So
mhm,
if we're under stress, our body feels it. If our brain is stressed, our body follows what our brain is doing. So if our brain is worrying or fearful, our cells feel it as a cellular level. So we have to use common sense. We have to stop and think, what's happening here? What makes sense? And going out, and unfortunately, and again, no judgment, but we have to question. We have to stop and slow down and say, a vaccination that normally takes 10 or more years to even come into this. People ask me all
mhm,
the time, like, wait a minute, vaccinations are good, aren't they? I'm like, this is different. The polio vaccination, or some of these other vaccinations that, yes, have helped people in the past, it took 10 years or more so that people were protected, and it was on trials and trials and trials. Something that just comes out of nowhere and then is thrust upon us. Again, we should have stayed a little bit more in our own judgment, to not react so quickly, to think about the common sense of our own well-being without just jumping at what the first thing was.
Exactly. Exactly. It's easy to do, and like you said, no judgment.
I'm
It,
guilty of doing that sometimes too. But
yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this show is called Own Your Wellness, and the point is to be your own advocate and to own it. And
yeah,
part of that is doing the research. Part of that is questioning,
yeah,
because something is true until it isn't, you know.
absolutely. They say
So-
a conspiracy theory is basically 6 months later. you know, as things, more truths come out. And I am grateful that more and more people are starting to speak out and speak up.
Mhm.
There's a lot of repercussion for people doing so. I know even for us, we've been banned from Facebook because we, use the word natural or holistic or, that sort of thing. And nobody, not one doctor, not one, you know, wellness clinic was, during this whole pandemic, while people were frightened, nobody was able to even offer help. Hey, here's a suggestion. Here's something you can do to help you. Here's
Yeah.
some essential oils or some herbs. Sometimes it would get leaked out. President Trump accidentally leaked out something about taking Clorox, but no, he was talking about a natural supplement that was a natural supplement that can help people, but it was misinterpreted. Or Joe Rogan mentioned something about ivermectin, and he was really put on the stand and being condemned for things that were there and have a proof of literally helping thousands and thousands of people during COVID. But literally, these things were removed from people seeing these helpful things on the internet or on the web. We were, it's banned. We're not allowed to share what could be helpful. We can't. There's nothing else that is available except the vaccination. The vaccination. The vaccination is the only thing that's being told to the public. And yes, that's wrong. But a lot of times, even the populace don't realize that information is being carefully, that we're being manipulated, and
Mhm.
information is being withheld. But like, again, what I say is there are other sites and other venues where free speech is allowed, and the information is there, should someone choose to take a little deeper dive.
And that's the thing too, is it's okay to believe what you want to believe, but at least have some more information, at least have the information. So, it's
Yeah,
kind of like making your choice without having the choices. So,
yeah,
yeah, I've never understood that, but
yeah.
yeah, and that's what I like about what you do too, is because there's actual proof in the scan.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have clients who come in, and I love working with doctors, and I tell clients, if you want to have a half and half, half
Mhm.
holistic, or half, whatever it is fine. We will work with people. We don't have a judgment. I love when we can work together with
Mhm. A
their
wellness
doctor if
team.
that's what it wants. Right, exactly. I had a client come in, and she brought her mother, and she thought her mother had a cold. And, we looked into her chest, and, we looked into her heart, and it literally came up that she was about to have a very severe heart attack. And so I didn't take matters into my own hands. I said, you need to get her to the emergency room right now. We're stopping
Mhm.
this scan, and you're taking her to the emergency room. And lo and behold, we got a call from the doctors a few hours later, and they said, you literally saved this woman's life by sending her to us, because had she, had this heart attack, it was very, very major, and she probably wouldn't have lived.
Mhm.
So, we are we are not diagnosing people. We are not curing people. We simply help facilitate putting people's bodies and brains in the
Mhm.
right environment so their brain and body can heal itself. We're not doing the healing.
Mhm.
Every individual is healing themselves. And that's the clear distinction that I do want to make. And with our advanced technologies that we do have, we are working with energy. So because
Mhm.
we're energy, we are using energy to change energy. And there's these advanced technologies that been around for 45 years plus,
Mhm.
very effective, proven, and it's amazing and it's natural. And we can use this type of modality to heal from the inside out. Outside in healing is examples of medication or, let's say, talk therapy. This is
Mhm.
inside out healing, which is very, very powerful. It's very effective. And we even go as far as to, like, during COVID, for example, our technology, we use quantum healing.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
quantum physics understands energy, and energy doesn't know time or space. And so, if we can work with people remotely, and we did work with
Mhm.
hundreds and hundreds of people who were literally stuck in ICU, they were not allowed to see their families. We were lucky enough to be receiving a photo of that person, and our scanning technology could read their energy as an
Mhm.
energetic blueprint and read the energetic vibration of them, and then we could send frequencies through them, through their DNA, through their
Mhm.
photo, and they would receive these frequencies in the quantum, and immediately change would take place within 20 minutes. And doctors and nurses would verify, like, oh my gosh, this person is pulling through. We thought we would give them a 1% chance or whatever. They were pulling through these death sentences, if you will, and people were coming out of it. And it was stressful, it was exciting, and
Mhm.
we were full on. I was working sometimes 24 hours for 2 and 3 weeks at a time,
Wow.
and I had other providers all around the globe that we were working sometimes together in conjunction to help people pull through these adverse events in their life. So it's amazing. We get to see miracles every day. If I didn't
Mhm.
see what I see on a daily basis, I mean, even my team can vouch for this. Every single day, we encounter a miracle. We hear of a
Mhm.
miracle, and it's that keeps me believing, because I wouldn't believe what we do. And we started a little more recently. If you go to our website, you can go to our testimonials page, and we had so many testimonials. I never recorded them. I never really gathered them to post them, but I thought I started to recently, and because I
Mhm.
a person's message is powerful, and we do have, clients who are like, I want to be recorded. I want my testimonial to be heard, because people are out there suffering.
Mhm.
A lot of people are literally never left their bedrooms. Isn't that shocking? Some people have never left their house even after the pandemic. People
Yeah.
have social anxiety. People are suffering more. Everything's on the rise: depression, suicide, anxiety. And I am so, what's the word? I am so eager to help the masses. And we can do this. And people can get help regardless of where they are, regardless of their age, regardless of their location,
Mhm.
of their condition. There are answers. There's hope for these people. And that's what the message is. That's what people need to know. And regardless of budget, too. I mean, things like essential oils, there's
Mhm.
certain oils that can help open up the respiratory system and
Yes.
boost the immune system, help people elevate their mood, things that can be done. And again, a lot of this is available on the internet, uh,
Mhm.
but we want to share this information. And, there's hope. There is absolute hope.
I love that. We are actually almost out of time, but I know that you have a book coming out and we haven't even talked about it. And I want to make sure that we mention it at the very least, because that's the name of it, everybody down below. But could you share a little bit about your book?
Yes. So, I wanted to reveal a lot of what's been hidden from people, you know, the ability to heal from cancers and Alzheimer's and things like this that are not known. And I wanted to help give a guide to people, chapters like, fear will kill you, health is
Mhm.
wealth, how our environment, toxins inside and
Mhm.
out, things that we put in our body or on our body are affecting us. And that just as normal as we would brush our teeth and take a shower, we now need to start doing the practice of detoxifying ourselves from these
Mhm.
harmful toxins, 5G cell towers, EMFs, the harmful poisons that are, fluorides in our water, or things are
Mhm.
in our food. It's just a guide to help people to start to educate themselves, not be in fear, but empower people to take the health into their own hands and live the life they deserve.
I love that because if you don't know, then how can you do anything to help yourself? Like I had no idea. I mean, for the obviously I do now, but even makeup, how
Yeah.
toxic that could be, or if you have a gluten allergy, because I always thought that was so silly. I'd walk by and I'd see makeup that's gluten free, and it never dawned on me at the time. I was thinking, of course,
Yeah.
skin is an organ. It's still going
It's
in
our
your body.
largest organ. Yes, skin's our largest organ, and it's like our third kidney. And I was the same as you, honestly. I heard long back, probably 5 or 10 years ago, oh, you should change it from using your dryer sheets or
Mhm.
that type of soap or whatever. And I never, ever, I was like, because guess what? Again, I said, I'm healthy, right? If I'm
Mhm.
healthy, not affecting me. But when I saw what's in these scans, and when people come in and they have fibromyalgia or an autoimmune disease or autism or whatever, I'm now seeing these underlying pathogens, and we are able to get to the root cause. And the root cause is exactly what you said, is found in our products, in our foods, in our water, etc. So yeah, it's an education.
Oh, that's beautiful. On that note, we are out of time, everyone. Also, I wanted to pop up your email so people can reach out to you directly if they didn't already get your website, because that's how I that's how I found you. But anyway, Selene, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. The time just flew, and I'm so grateful. I appreciate you and all the
Thank
ways you
you.
do.
Thank you. Have a
All right.
great night.
You too. Thank you. Bye bye.
And unfortunately, as I mentioned, that's all the time that we have. So we will see everyone on Monday. Enjoy your weekend.